This week on A Brit in Poland, I return to Pieniny, but this time the journey is even more epic, the weather is even better, the views are incredible. I see not one, not two, but 3 castles. We go to the Trzy Korony peak, which we've literally just completed. This is perhaps one of the most picturesque and beautiful parts of Poland, and I look forward to introducing you. So please stay tuned, much more to come. Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. This channel is going to bring you everything you need to know about Poland. I am exploring the country, bringing you the history, trying to tell you about the culture and show you what it is really like to live here. So feel free to check out my other media, Instagram, Facebook, and I will share links to those in the comments. I also have a website, www.britinpoland.com, where I collate my videos for easy to view manner. Also, you are welcome to contribute to my efforts through Patronite or Patreon, and all descriptions are available below the video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please come back for more by subscribing, liking, or commenting. Thank you very much. Do zobaczenia. So we are heading right to the south of Poland, along what I guess was previously the Hungarian border, but we'll come to that. So we travelled down to Krakow by train and got a bus to Czorsztyn and Dunajec. And this is a lovely town. The population is about 3.6 thousand, and we stayed in this place, Trzy Korony, and it was a pretty awesome accommodation with pool tables, so love it. The town itself is beautiful. It was first mentioned in 1251 by Jan Długosz as a settlement likely founded by Saint Kinga, and we're going to be talking a bit about Saint Kinga on this video. The city itself was founded by Casimir III in 1348 under Magdeburg law, and it used to be on the royal road leading from Krakow to Budapest during the Middle Ages. From the 15th to the 19th century, it was actually the economic centre of the network of settlements in the area, because there were quite a few settlements, villages, towns, that basically kind of run in a row above the Pieniny Mountains. In the 17th century, it was governed by a Jan Baranowski, and he was quite unpopular. He took land from the townspeople to build a manor, ordering them to do 2 days of serfdom. Oh, and by the way, this church is the All Saints Church, which is actually from the mid-14th century, and it was there before the town was founded. People theorise about its origins, and the tower was built in the 16th and 17th centuries. But getting back to the history of Czorsztyn. So this Jan Baranowski, he took these farmlands from people, built his manor, ordered them to do 2 days of serfdom, and the people went to protest. However, once they protested in Czorsztyn, where he was based, they were flogged, and the mayor of the village was actually killed by all of this. So there were many rebellions over the years. The manor forests were burned down, and there was a bit of revenge going on back and forth until a settlement was finally reached in 1636. In the 18th century, it was recorded as one of the smallest and poorest towns in the areas, and it was hit by disasters such as plagues and floods. From 1770, it was taken by Hungary in the name of Kinga, and I think also it went to Austria, and after that it became like a bit of a Jewish spa town in the 19th century. In 1918, it finally came back to Poland, and from the 1930s became a bit of a tourist resort with trips to the Pieniny Mountains. Taken by Germany in 1949, in 1942 all the Jews were removed and sent to Nowy Targ for execution in the Jewish cemetery. So people come here mainly for the Pieniny Mountains, you would say. And the Pieniny Mountains are incredible. I mean, visitors to the Pieniny Mountains have been fascinated with the steep limestone cliffs, precipices and gorges, and the river Dunajec flowing its way through the mountain range. And people's imaginations have been stimulated by the castles guarding the route along the river. It's a place of fantasy populated with figures of robbers, princesses, sorcerers, good and evil spirits, hidden treasures, heroes and legends and fairy tales. It's an incredible place. And we're going to go into a few of the legends in this video. I might look into doing more legend-based videos in the future. If so, please let me know in the comments. And there are stories such as wheat ripening in moments, thanks to St. Kinga, time-traveling treasure hunters, and daring escapes of bandits from castle dungeons. And speaking of castles, we are heading to the first castle now. And we're just going to take in these pretty dramatic scenes and these gorges that you see. But the first castle we're going to get to in a minute is called Pieniny Castle. And it was most likely built in the 1280s. It is actually the highest brick castle in Poland at around 740 to 760 meters above sea level. And yes, you can see it was a bit of a tough climb to get there. We're just reaching it now. And it's built right up against the rock face, and this is beautiful. So this is most likely orchestrated by Saint Kinga, who came from the Stary Sącz area. And she was a saint who basically performed some miracles. And she was looking after some nuns, and this castle would have been used as like a protective area for those nuns, especially when the Tartars were rebelling. There is a legend that when under assault, Kinga made a prayer, a fog descended, and Tartars got lost and fell into an abyss after all the knights defending the castle were killed. It was likely in use until the 14th, 15th century. And we think there are a couple of theories about how it was destroyed. It was either during the invasion of the Hussites or the troops of Szybor of Szyborcia in the early 15th century. And some say it is actually built around a spring, a natural spring, which is said to have had healing waters. So it was really cool to go to this castle. There's not a lot to see there now, let's be honest. But it's just cool to be finding castles in the mountains. So next we're going to go to one of the major tourist areas. So it's a place called Trzy Korony, and it basically means like 3 crowns, I believe. And it signifies these kind of 3 different peaks that look like a crown. So we have to go up even further because the main peak we're going to is called Okręglica, and this is actually 982 meters above sea level, so certainly not the highest peak in Poland, but it's high enough when you're hiking. And this was incredibly popular. You can see we were there at a fairly early hour of the day, maybe about 10 o'clock at this point, and you can see that it's pretty packed. You know, there's a queue to get onto this viewing platform already. But the views you get from this platform are amazing, though I was petrified the whole way, not of the height, but I was making sure that while I was filming, I kept a close grip on my phone because I was terrified. Sometimes people can have waits of an hour, maybe even longer, because effectively you're following this long viewing platform, and at the end, this long corridor, and then at the end you have this kind of viewing platform, and people, of course, like to take selfies and take videos, and so we were doing our best to keep our spirits up in the queue. but it's absolutely incredible. The other sorts of peaks in the area, you have Płaska Skała, which is 950 meters, Nad Ogródki, which is 940 meters, Pańska Skała, which is about 920 meters. You did have a small fee to get on. If I remember correctly, we needed cash, but I'm not 100%, but it's worth taking some cash anyway. It was only about 10 zloty or so, so kind of a tribute, but it's worth it. And you could also buy some like fridge magnets, but for these views, it was certainly worth the trek. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, you get an idea of the long queue that we had. But yeah, I maybe spent a bit longer on that section because I felt that the views would be great for this video. So after this, we are heading west along the ridge of the mountain because we're going to a place called Czorsztyn. And luckily, the travel along this stretch was pretty easygoing. It's pretty flat, to be honest, and mostly downhill from the peaks. Though, as you can see, there's a little bit of uphill still on that way. But nothing incredibly bad, so it gave us time to, let's say, recover from the treks. And you get, again, these lovely views. You can see right to the Tatras, and even the Żywiec Beskidi peaks. So it's a really nice area. We ran into cows and sheep, and we found a farm that was making cheese that you could buy, though the owner didn't seem to be the friendliest sort. But before we get to Czorsztyn, because it's not the biggest place, let me start with the history of that place. So it's a village which originates from the 13th century, and it's mainly famous for the castle. And we're going to get to the castle. You might just about see it in some of these shots in the distance. There are two castles that we're going to get to. This is the farm that was selling the cheese. And the friendly sheep, well, the hungry sheep. We got to this information center, which was pretty cool. I bought a nice book of Pieniny myths here, which I'm slowly translating. And there was a nice map of the area, and you can see some of the kind of local ethnography. Of course, everything was in Polish. So this is the village of Czorsztyn itself. Sorry for the slightly shaky camera work here. I think maybe I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was hungry at that point. But, you get these beautiful villas. There, of course, a lot of the places you see there are hotels. Because it's the kind of place where, a lot of tourists are going to go pretty much all year round, because the Pieniny Mountains are beautiful whenever you go. Even when we went in the rain in February, there was still some impressive sights there. And there was this weird wooden figure with the axe that was pretty cool. But yeah, you get a look at the Czorsztyński Lake, which I think is part of the Dunajec River. And here we're at the castle. So this is Zamkowa Góra, so it's about 588 meters above sea level. The first building on this hill was built around the 13th century and is also connected with Stary Sącz and the Poor Clares Monastery. It was taken over by the monarchs and underwent significant expansion during the reign of Casimir the Great in the 14th century. It defended the border and the intersection of trade routes leading to Hungary, towards Nowy Targ and Sącz. It was a stopping place for Polish rulers heading to Hungary. In 1433, it was burned down by the Hussites and rebuilt, and the castle changed hands between the staros of the king. The greatest development was made by the aforementioned Jan Baranowski, who built the Baranowski Tower. In the 1730s, the castle was devastated by Cossacks during the War of the Polish Succession. And between 1763 and 1797, the castle was held by Joseph Potocki, but after this, it went to Austria and gradually fell to ruin. Now, there's a pretty cool legend about two shepherds who were searching for treasure in the underground passages of the castle, and they were equipped with chalk blessed on the Day of the Three Kings and wax from a Pascal candle. They found the treasure, however, their torch went out, and the moment the torch lit up again, the treasure had completely disappeared. But not only that, the passage that they had followed was closed. They did find another passage, and they got into this other realm. However, when they exited this passage there and got back to their camp or their village, it had pretty much been destroyed. And legend says that even though they were only in that underground passage for a day, that several days or several weeks or even longer had passed. So it's said that they actually traveled through time. So I have never heard of a time travel story in Poland, so this is my first, so that was pretty cool. I really want to discover more about Polish myths and mythology as I go along. So getting to study these places and read about these things is quite cool for me. So we're going to head to the lake now, and we were able to basically book passage on a ferry. I don't think it was very expensive at all. I can't remember how much it cost, like 20, 30 zloty, something like that. We got some kind of group ticket, which got us a nice discount. But here you see Czorsztyn Castle on the left, and this kind of dramatic rock face feeding into the lake, and it was awesome. This is the boat that we took. There are a few boats that go back and forth, so they're fairly regular. But I think it's best to buy your ticket kind of at the stands by the castle before you go down to the lake. I don't know if you can actually buy them there. But this is one of the most amazing sights I have seen in Poland. You know, I've been on a few lakes, I've been to a few mountains, but having this combination here was absolutely amazing. You know, I couldn't help myself but just take video and photo and everything. And now we get to Dunajec Castle, which is in the village of Niedzica-Zamek. And this castle, it was most likely built in the early 14th century by Kokosz Berzewicki. I'm assuming he was Hungarian, based on the fact that Hungary was in charge of this castle. So it was probably on the site of an earlier defensive structure. And it first appeared in documentation from 1325. The castle was recorded as the property of Jan and Rykov Berzewicki family. So so we see the Berzewickis again. For a long time, this castle was basically a Hungarian watchtower on the border of Poland, so it was kind of like the parallel castle to Czorsztyn. It was owned by this Italian-Hungarian Giovanelli family, but they didn't care about the castle, so it fell into ruin. It was taken over by Andrzej Horvath and restored. And he restored the castle, and he made it famous throughout Hungary, including his impressive ballroom, apparently. After the end of World War II, the castle found itself in Poland, so basically the borders changed, and it remained the property of the Salomon family until 1945. Today, the castle serves as a museum and hotel. A lot of these restored castles are hotels. And there's a legend here, so around the end of the 18th century, the castle and its surroundings were said to be inhabited by Incas, descendants of Tupac Amaru II, and part of his aristocracy, who were fleeing Spanish persecution. Inca fugitives were also said to have hidden part of the treasure in the castle, and they probably intended to finance an uprising against Spain. So you have like a world of two castles here, because you have the, very much ruined Czorsztyn castle and the very much kind of restored Dunajec castle. I have to be honest, I just prefer ruins to the restored stuff. The restored stuff looks incredible, and it really gives you this extra insight to the history. But when you're seeing ruins, I don't know, that feels more adventurous for me. But it was awesome to get to this castle. On my castle poster, it is listed as one of the top 10 castles in Poland. I'm not sure I would put it in my top 10, but then it is a pretty impressive place. The Hungarians did a good job. And while we were in Niedzica, we got some lunch. We saw this carriage museum, which is also connected to the castle. I like the teddy bears you see here. They were a very random touch, but rather cute. And you can see how well preserved these are. So this was basically my adventure in Pieniny. I'm really glad I got a chance to see basically what is like the western part of the mountains. It is a lot more picturesque. So even though you have the highest peak in the eastern part, this western part, I think, has more stories attributed to it, more human civilization. And it was, and also we went at a better time of year, because I think we were here in September, so it wasn't too hot. We got to enjoy some greener views. We didn't have rain, which was a nice bonus. And really, I think it's one of the best trips I've taken in Poland so far. The only drama we had was getting back, because it seems there's quite a well-known habit of the local buses, and we booked our seats on this bus to take us, back to Krakow so we could get the train. Not only was the bus quite late, an hour late, so we missed our train, but they sold our seats. So I was actually stood the entire journey back, which was a bit frustrating. You can see the crowd here. In theory, you're not supposed to stand on these buses. But anyway, thank you for joining. Do zobaczenia.